No Standing 8 Boxing Podcast. We discuss every organization and weight class with your host, Bronx Bomber, educated with the craft. Punch a topic hard like heavyweights, hitting the bag from the top rank to the upcoming. Washed up to the dark horse, champs, #1 contenders. Quick jab or sharp cross, we your source. Come get it. Tuning in, you can have it. Internationally known, our information is valid. See, we on a higher plane, no two episodes the same. We get better as we train, so on top we remain. Come join the conversation, the same sight you'll gain. And then outside of the rain, we do the damn thing.
All right, fight fans, welcome to another edition of No Standing Boxing Talk. I'm your host, the Bronx Bomber, and today I am going to be breaking down and reviewing the show, or the shit show, that was the Edgar Berlanga card last night at the Hulu Theater, New York City, on the eve of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, as they like to call it, Puerto Rican Day weekend. I wrote an article for NewYorkFights.com celebrating the history of the parade and when it became tradition. Have a fight card the night before the parade, all the details on that. So visit NewYorkFights.com for that article and many more articles from my colleagues, my editors, Michael Woods, Abraham Gonzalez. You can read stories there from across the pond from my man Colin Morrison. You can read Weak Sauce Radio, also known as Marquise John, Ryan O'Hara. Lukey put up a article there yesterday. So we got a bunch of talented writers, the Sportsnista, bunch of talented writers from NewYorkFights.com. We are absolutely killing the game when it comes to boxing, writing, combat sports writing. So check us out. In addition to me writing for NewYorkFights.com, I also host my own boxing podcast. It's called the No Standing 8 Boxing Talk on YouTube. Go check it out for a bunch of interviews with legends like Ray Mercer, Christy Martin, John Molina, up-and-coming fighters like Omar Rosario, and some other boxing content on there. It is a good channel, I promise you. Go check it out, subscribe, follow, and share. And let's get right into this, okay? So last night, Top Rank Promotions telecast a all Puerto Rican fight where each card had a Puerto Rican fighter on it from the first card to the very last, with the main event headlining was Edgar the Monster Berlanga. And we're going to break down those fights. But like I said earlier, prior to conducting this review, I wrote an article on the history of the Puerto Rican Day Parade and how it was paired up with a Puerto Rican fighter headlining the night before a card in Madison Square Garden, and now the Hulu Theater. Started off with Miguel Cotto in 2005, and he headlined a boxing card to celebrate and honor the Puerto Rican Day Parade in conjunction. It kind of became sort of a tradition thereafter. And since he's retired, it kind of has slowly fallen apart. In addition of not having somebody to replace him as the Puerto Rican boxing star in the parade, we've also don't have for the first time in a long time, a major Puerto Rican champion representing Puerto Rican boxing fans and the island of Puerto Rico. And history shows that we've had, at least in one decade, one star. In the 70s, we had Wilfredo Benitez, and in the 80s, we had Wilfredo Gomez, Hector Macho Camacho. The 90s was ruled by Tito Trinidad, and 2000s, of course, was ruled by Miguel Cotto. As far as the Puerto Rican boxing king, for lack of better terms, or the Puerto Rican star, a folk hero boxer for Puerto Ricans of sort, right? So we haven't had a champion that has dominated their specific weight class coming from Puerto Rico since 2017, since Miguel Cotto retired. And Puerto Rican boxing fans are thirsty to find to find that boxer that's going to take on that lineage, that story lineage of great Puerto Rican fighters like the ones I just mentioned. And I think it's in that search, we're crowning people a little too early. Okay, we're going to talk about that here a little bit. So I'm going to start with Edgar Berlanga with the main event. On the eve, the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. Again, another marketing tool to hype this kid up. I have, you can go on my YouTube channel, my history videos, search my history, and you can see that I never, ever bought in to the Edgar Berlanga hype train. I just did it. I didn't see the things of a superstar. The first round knockouts were beautiful. They were great. They were exciting. But like I said in previous videos, on the way to those first round knockouts, I didn't see anything that just read to me superstar, read to me dominant, as compared to the fighters that I just mentioned. Okay, because when we're looking for the next Puerto Rican boxing star, we kind of have to do that, right? We don't have no other measuring test or litmus test or whatever the case is. So we have to, or should I say, it is in our nature as Puerto Rican boxing fans to compare fighters to Miguel Cotto, Tito Trinidad, Wilfredo Benitez, and whoever Puerto Rican dominant fighter in history. And it's unfair to these guys, and I know that that's unfair, but nevertheless, that's just what it is, right? So when Edgar Berlanga was going on his knockout streak, his 16 first round knockouts, and people got excited, and rightfully so. I don't blame him for that, but my boxing guy just didn't catch those things, all right? And I was vocal about it, and I was vocal about it in my last review of him. I was vocal about it 2 years ago, and well, it leads it to last night, right? So they marketed him. They headlined him with the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, and he sold out the Hulu Theater again. And what's drawing fans back is to see if he could capture that powerful knockout streak, or not even the first round, but just continue on that streak of knockouts, right? And for the fourth time since his 16th fight, Edgar Berlanga went to another decision, went to the cards, but not in an impressive manner. And a lot of the knock on it is, okay, you knocked a lot of people out on your way to the 16 rounds, but then after that, you have not won in exciting manner. Yes, you've won some decisions, but it's a little bland, right? And you know, we like seasoning on our food. Puerto Ricans, we know for that, right? We have a flair to us. We have, even in winning without a knockout, you were not impressive. You were not dominant. Okay, so that's a lot of the knock on it. So getting back to the fight itself, Edgar Berlanga chose, first and foremost, one of my criticism in the last fight that was maybe he should consider a coaching change, because they're not bringing out the other skills that he says that he had, right? They're not bringing out the things that we were criticizing about. He was all power. He wasn't a boxer, where Edgar Berlanga was adamant that he was a boxer. And I also said you can't get to this level without having some boxing skills, right? So Edgar Berlanga could box. It's just in there somewhere. And a talented coach could bring that out, right? So he made a coaching change. But I was like, okay, well, let's see what Edgar Berlanga brings to the table tonight. And he showed us a different Edgar Berlanga, one that chose to box. Early in the fight, he was sticking his jab, utilizing his jab. He was getting kudos for Timothy Bradley for doing so. And once Angulo kind of figured it out, Angulo was closing the gap and hit Edgar Berlanga with some shots, uppercuts, and Edgar Berlanga did not know what to do in that world. Okay, Edgar Berlanga was beat up. He was took the shots to the body where it looked like it hurt, ate a couple uppercuts, and that was it. So while he showed us different things that looked good, setting up the punch with the jab, landed straight right on occasion, he absolutely froze once Alexis Angulo figured him out. Okay, so last night, while we saw different aspects of Edgar Berlanga's game, he wasn't able to put the package completely together. So where he could dominate Alexis Angulo, that was obviously not the Alexis Angulo of old. He was overweight, came into the fight overweight. And he was older, 38 years old, and has been in some wars, right? So this was the perfect opponent, well, maybe not, but this was the opponent for us If Edgar Berlanga would have put it all together and dominated, then maybe we would have given him a pass. But the fact that you were not able to dominate a fighter who obviously had trouble making weight, who was slower than you, because if Alexis Angulo could have not fought any slower. I sometimes I had to check my TV and make sure that somehow, some way, I wasn't on automatic slow motion replay. He failed to capitalize on that. Now, while I believe he did win, I don't believe he won in the margins that the judges say he did. Angulo certainly had his moments. I believe he pulled it out. He was a one-trick pony last night. Last night was all about the jab, the straight right, and his coach scolded him. His coach did not want him to engage in a brawl with Alexis Angulo. Maybe he saw something. Maybe he saw that Edgar Berlanga did not react well to any of Angulo's punches, but he scolded Edgar Berlanga for attempting to get into the shootout or doing what Edgar Berlanga is known for, using his power, right? So it led to that. Now, and it led to some frustrations, which created a moment in the boxing match that was just utterly disgusting. Okay, Edgar Berlanga attempted to bite Angulo. Not attempted. I think he actually did bite him. We saw that he actually did the chomping motion, some sort of Jurassic Park dominant fashion, right? He attempted to bite him in the neck. They showed the replay was clear that was intention. That was his intent, was to bite him, right? You could tell that Edgar Berlanga was frustrated, that Angulo was frustrating him, so he needed to do something to change the course of the fight. He couldn't do it with his fist, so he tried to do it with his mouth, right? And at the end of the fight, the thing that disgusted me the most when Bernardo Osuna was in there doing the post-fight interview is that he bold-faced sat there and just said, yeah, I did it. I did it, and the reason why I did it was because he was elbowing me and throwing elbows. So I had to do something. Well, that wasn't the answer, young man. How about fight? How about fight? And then he referred to Mike Tyson and how Mike Tyson was frustrated with the headbutts of Evander Holyfield, and that's why Mike Tyson bit Evander. Mike Tyson doesn't take away from that. He's always said that. But it wasn't cute when Mike Tyson did it, and it wasn't cute when you did it, guy. It just wasn't. That's not encompassing of what a Puerto Rican champion is. None of our prior Puerto Rican champions have done that. And this has been your goal, supposedly, since you were 9 years old, right? Was to be the next Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto handled his business with his hands. He found a way to get a win. And if he did it, he lost. He lost with honor. He lost as a professional. Not the way you try to do that. And that was disgusting of you. To not even at least apologize or say something to the effect of, man, I was just frustrated. I'm sorry. I apologize to the fans that came and paid their hard-earned money. As you said in your post-fight interview, people in this, especially today's economy, don't have the money to be going out and buying tickets. And they did, to come see you. And that's how you repay them. And then you're just going to gloss over it. Not one remorseful word out of you. And that was disgusting. And quite frankly, for me, if you go back and go back to the drawing board and come back brand new and start knocking people out, you work your way up to a world champion, you would never be that guy for me because of what you did. That's it. The pedestal, the crowning, that's it. You lived up to your name, the monster, but not with your hands. You try to emulate a different type of monster, the werewolf or something. That's a no-no. Pop out for you. Go to the corner, just whatever. All right? Your mom or whoever should get the chocolate that beat you. Somebody needs to do it. That was disgusting. Anyway, I digress. I'm not going to say that he was all bad. the positive things that I took away from Berlanga yesterday was that we could see that he could box some, that he could move a little bit until Angulo cut the ring off and then commenced to beating the shit out of him, right? But up to that, we saw that he had a pretty decent jab, I thought. Obviously, his rights are good. He attempted to hook off. At times, he countered at Angulo and hooked off with a hook. Just wasn't landing flushes. He wasn't set. He wasn't set. So, but those are the positives. So what you're seeing now is, in effect, a Berlanga that's learning, because he didn't have that opportunity. He was knocking people out. So what's unfolding in front of us is an Edgar Berlanga that's trying to find out who he is as a fighter, who he is as a boxer. Is he a knockout artist? Is he a boxer puncher? Is he one that has to set up his punches? Because I said it, one of these days, long after the reign of the knockout's over, somebody's going to stand in front of him and be able to take his punch, and somebody's going to punch back. How is this young man going to react? He has not reacted well whatsoever. So I'm not going to say it was all bad. It's just that we are learning who he's also learning. We are also learning who Edgar Berlanga is as a fighter. He is the epitome of putting the cart before the horse. He is the living definition of that. He is the living definition of counting your chickens before they hatch. Whatever quote you want to say that what to use for defining something that was well ahead of his time, that hasn't caught up with the hype. That's what Edgar Berlanga is. He fits it all. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see that he is being marketed for something that he could have been, not that he is. The negatives. Oh, wait, before I get to the negatives, the other positive is that he's coachable. At least he demonstrated he was coachable. That he listens to his coach. That he takes instruction well. One of my criticisms was that his last fight, he had too many people in his ear. Not last night. Last night it was one voice, and he listened. So there are positives to his game. We showed a little bit that he could box yesterday. He showed a little bit. He showed that he is coachable. He's willing to listen to his corner. Now he's just got to put that all together. And my colleague at New York Fights, Gail, when she wrote her piece last night, her review of the fight, her deadline report on this card, she said that maybe Edgar Berlanga should go back and fight 3 or 4 more times off TV, so he could put all of this together without the pressure, without the hype, without that added pressure of being the monster, being the next Puerto Rican boxing star, without any of that pressure. And go back and put it all together and come back as a complete product. Then maybe. And she also recommended he see a sports therapist, so possibly. I don't disagree. You go off biting people, you got to see somebody. That's a no-no, man. That's a no-no. So he has to put that all together. But even if he does, I think last night was indicative. I don't think fans are to give him a pass for what he did. Okay, last night, the Edgar Berlanga hype train is slowly coming to a halt, and I actually think that a couple of wheels have popped off and it has derailed. So, what's next for the young man? I agree with my colleagues. My other colleague in the New York Fights, the Sportsnista, Cassandra, she kind of recommended that Edgar Berlanga is a knockout artist, and he needs a coach that's going to be able to put all of that together, so where his power is the culminating effect of all of a plan. It shouldn't be the go-to, nor should we ignore it like last night, because I believe that Alexis Angulo was there for the pickings. It was there. He was there for the pickings. Edgar Berlanga should have knocked him out. I'm not saying it happened in the first round, but somewhere down the fight, what I wanted to see, what most fans wanted to see, was that you went back to the drawing board and put the things together in order to get that knockout, in order to tell us and show us why you are considered the next Puerto Rican star. Because, and I could show you the text to my friends last night. I was actually sort of impressed with how Berlanga came out. And I said, okay, this is a different guy. This is a guy that's not looking for a knockout. This is a guy that's putting things together, and the knockout will come. It happened, man. Good God. On the eve of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. All right. As you can tell, I'm wearing my colors. I'm from Caguas, Puerto Rico, where Miguel Cotto is from. I was born there, raised in the Bronx. That's why you get the best of both worlds when it comes to me. All right. The Puerto Rican flavor with the and I was raised in the Bronx as a kid. All right. I'm wearing my Santurce hat in homage to the Santurce Cangrejeros, in homage to the greatest Puerto Rican athlete that's ever lived, in my opinion, or probably one of the greatest athletes of all time, at least up there in regards to what he did on the field and what he did off the field. It's Roberto Clemente. As you can see, he has his own little corner. It's called Roberto's Corner, Roberto Way out there. So that's what we are accustomed to in Puerto Rico regarding our sports heroes. Not only that they're absolute terrorists at whatever sport they play, whether it be baseball, boxing, they're going to dominate in the field, in the ring, but they're also good people outside of it. They're humble people. The only, even in his flamboyantness, Hector Macho Camacho never did anything like that. Bite somebody, kick somebody. I mean, he talked a lot of shit, but he was able to back it up with his hands. And when he did it, it just was what it was. That's it. You accept your loss and you keep moving. Anyway, that's my rant on Edgar Berlanga. I still don't think he is the one. We are still waiting on him. I wrote in my article a couple of the guys that I think are it. And I also said that we need to stop looking for our next Puerto Rican boxing star. That boxer is already here. But people are disrespectfully overlooking her. Amanda Serrano. What more does she have to do to gain the love of all Puerto Ricans and elevate her to that spot? Why are we still talking about who's going to replace Miguel Cotto? She's there. She's a boxer. Is it because she's a female? I think that's what it is. I really think that's what it is. Because she's won multiple world titles. Spare me the bullshit when it comes to as far as quality of opponents and all that in female boxing. We understand that. And we know that there's a lack of talent pool in women's boxing. But nevertheless, she's dominated. Second in career knockouts next to Kristen Martin. Awesome performance against Katie Taylor. I think that if that didn't elevate her stock, I don't know what will. Awesome performance. Almost had was considered one of the best female fighters pound for pound in Katie Taylor. And then when she didn't knock her out, she didn't get frustrated and bite her or kick her. She sat there and fought like a warrior. And then was classy in the interview. It did not take away from the event that was the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight. Because it was the fight that elevated women's boxing. She did not take away from that. It could be argued that Amanda Serrano won. She didn't go on there and say, oh, they robbed me, they did this. She kept it 100% classy, gave Katie Taylor her props. And in fact, what she said was that women's boxing won that night. Who could argue with that? Who could argue with that? So we need to stop looking for our so-called who's going to replace Miguel Cotto. That person's here. That's Amanda Serrano. All right, moving on to the next cards of the fight. Josue Vargas. I am okay to talk about Josue Vargas now because so far, so good. He has been cleared. His CT scans have been cleared. So happy that he went to the hospital because he absolutely got rocked last night by a journeyman from West Virginia, tough man fighter. He's tough man fighter. Let me tell you something. Don't overlook them when he comes when he pro boxers, man. I don't know. Some of them have, are successful. They do this tough man competition and they come in and they do this, right? And in boxing, you got these weird, just tough bruisers that make a hard time for boxers when they fight, right? So Josue Vargas coming on his comeback fight, coming off his loss against Cepeda, and his comeback fight, he didn't look so good. I mean, he won, but he didn't look too good. And if there was any indication that a fighter should quit boxing, was last night. Josue Vargas needs to quit boxing, not because he can't fight physically. He's a good fighter. And mind you, he's another one that I didn't buy off on either. Look back on my YouTube channel, and I tell you that I knew he wasn't going to pan out. There's just certain things, look, in all boxers, not just Puerto Rican boxers. I have an eye for this stuff. I have an eye to kind of sort of gauge who's going to be a star, who isn't. Who's going to be a world champion, who isn't. Most of us that follow boxing the way we do in our business, writers and analysts and all that, they could do that within a couple fights with just glimpses of seeing a fighter. I knew Josue Vargas was going to pan out. I didn't think he was a terrible fighter. I just kind of thought he was going to fall into that category of a guy like, hey, I'm going to get to fight for a world champion, but not really win a world champion type status. You know what I mean? And he didn't even do that. Because yesterday he got hit with a haymaker, and it was it. The fight should have been stopped then. And then the referee, that guy, I don't know. I'm not going to go far and say that the guy should be fired, but if there was anybody that ever needed to be retrained in the field, it was that referee that night. Because, I don't know, it was obvious. It was evident. Stevie Wonder would have stopped the fight. That Josue Vargas was in no condition to continue this fight. That could have had some detrimental secondary and tertiary effects. And we still don't know if he's in the clear, because sometimes these things just manifest themselves, these brain injuries just manifest themselves later. But his body language and how he responded to that, and he was not there. Even when he was exiting the ring, he was still on wobbly legs. Tells me that he just needs to stop. Not because he can't physically do what he can with his hands, because he's talented. But you don't know how your brains will respond to another hit. So sometimes fighters that get rocked the way they got rocked or lose in the first round manner that he did with his against Cepeda, they psychologically can't come back. They're not the same fighter they once were or once was. And then now it might be more than just psychological or performance anxiety or whatever it is. Right now, when it comes to Josue Vargas, I am seriously concerned with the young man's health, and I've been very critical of him. But that's all. That's where it stops. It's just criticism, because I don't want to see nobody get hurt or die, because that is very real in boxing. We had. So yeah, that's my recommendation. I think this for Josue Vargas, that train has derailed, in my opinion, and he needs to stop boxing. That brings us to Miguel Cotto's fighter, Carlos Caraballo, who lost his second fight in 3 fights against a very talented Victor Santillan. But this should have been a guy that Carlos Caraballo should have beat, because Santillan didn't do anything special. He just timed him. He was a little fast and whatnot, but he just timed him. And Carlos Caraballo is his own worst enemy, because he's talented and he could box. Miguel Cotto doesn't back you if he doesn't think you could box, okay? And you saw glimpses of that. What he did in the last few rounds, that's the way he should have fought the first few rounds. But this guy gets drawn into a brawl every time. And if you don't have the mule kicking power that's Tito Trinidad or Roberto Gomez, or know how to place punches like Miguel Cotto to take your guy out to the body and whatnot, then you don't need to be in there mixing it up. Use your boxing skill, because When he figured out something else, too little, too late. Miguel Cotto didn't even stick around for the decision. He already know his final loss. Now, can Carlos Carvalho rebound? Yes, I think so. Two losses on your record is not the end of the world. I think he could rebound. Yesterday I tweeted that I want to put him in the same category that I put Josue Vargas. After I slept on it, like my editor Woodsy likes to say, you're caffeinated now. Last night with these fights, good God. Look, I'm getting to the age right now when I can't stay up past midnight, man. and the ring walks it was midnight, the ring walks weren't happening. So I was half beady-eyed anyway. So I tweeted last night that Carlos Carvalho, I'm going to put him in the same category as Josue Vargas, that he's just not going to pan out. I rethink that a little bit. I think he could actually do something because he has the skills to do it. He just needs to go reshape his game plan, and use his tremendous boxing skills. He could box and move around a little bit, just like he did in the later rounds against Santillán. And if he would have did that throughout the whole fight, he would have easily beat Santillán. Easily. So anyway, Carlos Purin Carvalho need to go back and we work some things, okay? And that brings us to the co-main event. Henry Moncho LeBron, who is, again, these thirsty Puerto Rican fight fans are putting him already as the next guy to take the reins from Miguel Cotto. I don't think so. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. He got some good stuff, and I'm just not right now. Not right now. The guy that he fought, first of all, he's still fighting 8-rounders. By Miguel Cotto, like 6 fight. By Tito Trinidad, like 6 fight. They're already fighting 10-rounders. All right. So he's 15-0, not 16-0, I think. And what are we still doing fighting 8-rounders? My man, we got to bring you up. The reason why you're still fighting 8-rounders is because your team doesn't have the confidence that you can fight 10-rounders and fight tougher opposition. Because you should have took this guy out yesterday. The other LeBron, Popeye, you should have been his Brutus and knocked him out. Because you let him linger. And if this Popeye would have been handed a can of spinach, your ass would have been done. All right? But I'm not taking anything away from him. He could fight. He could move. He got the things. But let's hold off on the crowning for just a second. Let these guys fight some top 10 opposition. Let these guys get ranked in the ring rankings, and before we start crowning who the next Puerto Rican champion is. Let's stop that, because these guys are not showing us on their way up to the rankings. You saw what Miguel Cotto was gonna be. You saw what Tito Trinidad was gonna be. Hell, Wilfredo Benitez won a world title at 17. Unheard of. And it hasn't been matched since. So let's stop. Let's slow it. Sometimes we, the fans, mess this up because we don't wait for the development. Because I'm telling you right now, initially, I don't see anything that Moncho does to be put in the category of being a future elite star. Now, this is not saying that this guy can't win titles. This is not what I'm talking about here. We're not talking about winning titles. We're talking about legacy, superstardom, things that fans will talk about for years to come. Guys that did things like that are on my wall over there. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Robinson. And on my other walls here, I got Miguel Cotto over here. I got Wilfredo Gomez here. Julio Cesar Chavez, Macho Camacho, Pernell Whitaker. I mean, my room is filled with guys that we talk about for years and years and years and years. And we saw it early. We saw what Pernell Whitaker was going to be early. What Julio Cesar Chavez was going to be early. What Hector Macho Camacho was going to be early. Marvin Hagler, which I got up here, early. On their way up, we saw those things that we knew we could pick out. Oh, man, this guy's going to be a star. And you're 15, 16 fights into your career, you're still fighting 8-rounders. It's time now. Okay? It's time. It's time now. I want to see you in now. If you're the guy that people say you're going to be, which I'm not saying you're not going to be, it is time now to step it up a notch, okay? All right. Then the rest of the card, Omar Rosario, out of Caguas, associated with the family of Miguel Cotto. I wrote in my article that this is a guy to watch out for, and he has Cotto-like, Cotto-esque kind of moves. He moves well. He moves in and out. He puts punches and combinations. Very talented fighter. My only knock on him was he needed to work on some defensive skills. But this guy, in his last 5 fights, has taken somebody's undefeated record. He's fought 4 undefeated guys. Okay, and he fought another undefeated yesterday in a very game, Julio Rosa last night, which made a tough fight for Omar Rosario. So what I did like about Omar Rosario was he won a close to shutout against Julio Rosario, but he was roughed up in the process. Julio Rosa was that kind of fighter, he's going to rough you up and make a hard night of you. And that's been Omar Rosario the last 2 fights. What I like about him was he's been able to overcome that adversity and pull out a win. My only knock on Rosario is that he don't have the punching power to make a difference in the fight. He fights well to the body, though. I think he needs to do a little bit more than that, because the first time I saw him fight, he knocked out a guy with a beautiful shot to the body. Okay, if you look at my intro video, it was so beautiful that I put it up. It's part of my intro video to my podcast. All right, so Omar Rosario is definitely I like the way they're managing his career. Okay, he's working on things. He's talented, very talented. Showed a lot of defense yesterday. I think he gets hit a little too early for me. He was roughed up. He got cut last night from a headbutt, I believe, and he was able to get through that adversity and box well, put some things together to pull out the win. He's done that his last few fights. So the future looks bright for Omar Rosario. Keep an eye out for him. Orlando Capu Gonzalez had a very impressive first-round victory yesterday. Listen, this guy's only loss is Robesi Ramirez, and you can't knock him for that. Robesi is a talented fighter. So if you're going to have a loss in your record, it is going to be to that guy. All right. And, again, very powerful, boom, boom, boom kind of fire. I want to see him put some things together. You looked good last night. I'm going to keep my eye out for you there, Orlando Capu Gonzalez. I'm going to keep my eye out for you. Marty Amastica won in impressive fashion yesterday, and he fought a guy that didn't come to lay down. So while he has 6 fights, 6 knockouts, yesterday being his 6th knockout, but they stopped him in the late round. The referee didn't get the referee didn't stop the fight. Probably would have went the distance, but the referee made the right call. I think he should have stopped the fight. But he showed us some things. He's worked. He needed these rounds yesterday. He needed these rounds, and he put it together beautifully. So look out for Marty Amastica. And Christina Cruz was the opening fight. She fought a fighter she had fought already, and she looked good. She put some things together to put together a nice win, and I'm going to keep my eye out for her. So there you have it, folks. Happy Puerto Rican Day weekend to my fellow Puerto Ricans. Get your flags. I'm in North Carolina. Wish I could be in New York to celebrate. Read my article, New York Fights. I got pictures there when I went to the Puerto Rican Day parade with my girls, with my daughters and my wife, and we celebrated on the night after Miguel Cotto defeated Paulo Malignaggi in a tremendous fight at Madison Square Garden. That's what we've got it used to. And moving forward, we're going to have a Puerto Rican headline on the eve of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. He should be a top 10 contender, top 5, if not a world champion already, okay? That's what Miguel Cotto did. That's the standard that he put out. So if we're going to headline a Puerto Rican fighter, an all Puerto Rican card on the eve of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, let's make sure that this guy is already our king or close to being our boxing king, all right? So those are my only criticism. Listen, if you like what you hear, if you like the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, more importantly, and go follow me at Twitter, The Bronx Bomber, for all my tweets. Go read my work.
No Standing 8 Boxer Podcast. We discuss every organization and weight class with your host, Bronx Bomber, educated with the craft. Punch a topic hard like heavyweights, hitting the bag from the top rank to the upcoming. Washed up to the dark horse. Champs, #1 contenders. Quick jab or sharp cross. We source. Come get it. Tuning in, you can have it. Internationally known, our information is valid. See, we on a higher plane. No 2 episodes the same. We get better as we train, so on top we remain. Come join the conversation, this inside your game. In and outside of the ring, we do the damn thing.
Boxing platforms, digital media boxing platforms out there. And of course, follow me at No Standing Gate Boxing Talk. Click the like, subscribe, share, leave your comments. If I'm off or Berlanga, let me know. Let me know what you think. All right. Till the next time, fight fans. Talk to you later.